Hello, hi Ashwin. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Meda. It's a pleasure to be here.
Cool. The reason that I knew that I wanted to have you as a guest is because you're out there teaching AI for designers. It's kind of cool because AI itself is so new. It's like we're still learning it. And so far, with everyone I've spoken to, I feel like AI is very polarizing, right? People either scared or they're very excited. You obviously are in the excited camp, I can tell. But I think I want to know, so like, what drives your passion? We do know that it is taking away jobs, it is warping things at a crazy speed. But why does AI excite you?
Sure. I think I had a bit of an advantage when I first started using AI, in the sense that I was not just a designer. I think always I was also a front end developer, or more like a full stack developer by interest. So there was a time in my past that I used to try and learn how to code. I got introduced to all the technologies. I think a part of that time I spent helps me today with my role as a designer. I'm talking before AI.
Yeah.
And I realized like there was way too much time I spent, and there was a lot of struggle through that learning, because everything was a lot complicated and it wasn't something that you just learn in like a month and be able to build something quickly. It took much longer. And when this whole vibe coding became a thing first, that's when I tried the same things I used to do before, but I was able to do it in like a fraction of the time. So then it immediately struck me like, okay, this is something completely different. Like the possibilities that now we have as designers or as creators was insane, because now you could just like imagine something, spend a weekend, and like have it out there. This was There were lots of times when I had ideas of like things that I wanted to build, but there wasn't any resource on how to even get started. Like
Yeah.
what should I learn for this was even a question to begin with. So this possibility of some creating new things that now designers could was the first exciting part of my journey, and that got me triggered into this, like being able to post content out there and show people like now you can make 3D stuff, now you can build games, you can build like logic, and without having to learn how to code. So it started off at vibe coding, but then I started asking what's next, and it's then I was led into this path of automation, and prompt engineering and the possibilities of it. So I think one thing I heard, I think from Sam Altman on one of the podcasts, was how different people of different age groups and different demographics use AI. And there was this thing that the majority use AI as like Google alternative. They use AI to like
Yeah.
ask questions, and yeah. But there's also a small segment of like experts and like younger people who use AI as an operating system. So that was very interesting to me. Like, what does an operating system actually mean? So then I started to understand that they're using AI in every part of their workflow, in outsourcing decision making, in speeding up their current repetitive processes. And then I was like, okay, what kind of repetitive processes in your workflow can you actually repeat through prompting? And asking that question showed me so many areas that which otherwise would have been like such a manual, repetitive work. You can, by just plugging a few things together, completely automate the whole flow. So it was just like this moment for me when like a factory worker now suddenly gets replaced by a machine, and then like now that does all the conveyor belt stuff. I had that moment with my ability to use this prompting to achieve certain tasks. So I was like, okay, yeah, this creates a lot of opportunities for designers in organizations. Like things like a lot of mundane things can be completely taken over by these AI tools, right? An example is like right now I'm working on copy stress testing, which is it's basically, I mean, we have we have an app that serves in 11 markets, and each market is like different real data. We don't control the sizes of the data. It could be as like 24 characters long or even 8 characters long. So we don't know. Most often, sometimes we take like wild guesses on like, okay, this copy, this design should most likely work in all markets. Would be a sort of a guess, right? But now we could like create a plugin that would have otherwise taken maybe like weeks or like months, and just over a weekend or just like over one evening, right? So this creates like new possibilities of how you could use digital products into your own workflows, which takes far less time to build, which otherwise we wouldn't think of investing time in because of the time it takes, right? And within this workflows, you could start using all these AI automations on the back end, like going and updating certain documents on its own. You're going and referring to existing documents that exist in your Google Drive and pulling out the relevant fields. Like these sort of things that which was never available to us is now available. So yeah, I saw the possibility on all of this, and yeah, I thought this was time for me to change my way of working, in seeing how I can use AI in pretty much everything, like in every part of my job, and see if I can become more productive or become like create something that would have otherwise not been possible so easily. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what got me into this curiosity path of like where what are the possibilities, and I'm like, I know there's this like AI overwhelm. This is also it's a big thing. I know that because there's so much new news every day,
There's a new
but
tool every day, I feel like.
yeah, new
Yeah.
tool, new trick, new concept, new like there's something like people are talking about some new technology, like one day there's MCPs, the other day there's like custom trained models and fine tuning. I don't know. There's so much going on, and I know it's very difficult to keep up with all of that. But I think if you change your frame to be a bit like more, uh, like look opportunistic in the sense that you know that this is going to make you 10x better, 20x better, and you're looking out for like what are the new things that I can learn today that will make me like a little better than I was. I think it gives you a different frame, an exciting frame to look at things and want more things. So there could be an ocean of things happening there. You don't have to learn all of it. You have to learn like one thing every time you find a chance to just make you slightly better. And that's, I think, looking at it that way makes things a little more exciting for me.
So I would agree with that. But now again, I have like two follow-up questions for that. So,
Sure.
I agree. I mean, everyone knows that, of course, you can build things really fast, you can automate things, but I think something that we all also know is that AI can make mistakes. It is not 100% reliable. And, I'm a product designer, and sometimes I've been playing around with these tools. We don't really use them, we have AI agents and things for work, but I've been playing around with these prototyping tools for fun. And sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so tired of constantly tweaking my prompt. I would rather just build it in Figma myself. So that's not speeding me up, that's slowing me down. So I don't know, how do you tackle these two things, the accuracy part and just sometimes how it's, I mean, you just cannot guarantee the outcome. You don't know if it's going to be good or if you're going to spend more time fixing what came out.
hmm That's a very good question. I think, uh, yeah, there is an initial phase of like trying to like when you go trying to automate your existing workflow with AI. There is an initial phase where it feels like you're taking more time trying to write prompts and
Yes.
less time on the like than it would take on the actual task. I completely agree. But I had this phase, but I think with practice, I was able to figure out faster ways to do it. One, and like for example, I don't write prompts anymore. I use Claude to write prompts for me. But the ability to find what is the challenge and the way of thinking in terms of, okay, what do you want to achieve, and being able to just like put them as notes and just telling Claude, look, I want to turn this into a prompt, right? That's much faster And when you get a hang of that, it's like, when you're first designing screens on your UX, like when you first time ever, you will take a long time, of course, because you don't know how, like, what is the most common border radius for a form? What is a form field? What is the most,
Yeah.
like, what's the best shadow setting? Because you don't know, like, what's like the best shadow setting. But then, like, once you get a hang of, okay, I've applied like soft shadows like 100 times in my life, it becomes a second nature to you. Then, when you put a card, you can put a soft shadow like in seconds without having to think so much after you've like designing for a while, right? It's the same effect, I think, because once you understand what your task is, and like how you want this task to be achieved, you can just like make pointers of it like clearly on Claude and be like, hey, help me create a prompt for this. And there is an iteration too. Like, it's not like you create a prompt and it'll give you the best output. There are a couple more things to consider, in my opinion. One is being able to understand what the output of the AI would be for different complexities of tasks, and being able to break it down into the smallest possible one, that will give you the most accurate output, right? So AI makes mistakes is valid, but it's a question of how complex is your task, so that you're allowing more errors in the output, right? So if you reduce the complexity of the task, you have more accuracy of output. So the question is like, how have you thought through your process and integrated AI into that process, so that you optimize it for better accuracy? I think that's the way to look at it. So if I'm integrating AI into just creation of a discussion guide in user research, for example, right? It's not a single prompt. Maybe I need a prompt to just turn my design into like what it looks like visually. Maybe I need a prompt to create a goals, like, capture all the goals of the user research. Maybe I need a prompt to turn those goals into like declared interaction objectives. I don't know, right? So there are like several parts of the process, each require its own prompt, but you can optimize each prompt for its accuracy. And when you combine them together, then you have your solution. I think most people kind of, um, did I lose you here? I think the screen's frozen.
Okay, now it's okay. Now it's fine.
No, it's
I
better.
think
Okay, for me, your
I can
screen
hear
still
you.
looks frozen. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think a lot of people think AI makes mistakes and come to that declaration and think there is no way forward, without knowing what next. Like, without knowing how to tackle that, and the advantage tackling that provides you in your workflow. So yeah, I think it's a question of like understanding the capabilities of each model, understanding the capabilities of prompting, and being able to stitch that into your workflow. It takes time initially, but once you've identified the repetitive ones, it saves you a lot of time in the long run.
Yeah, and
Also,
actually,
it
while
gets
you were
faster to be able to do it. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, no, no. While you were speaking, I was also thinking that, I mean, we could even say this to humans, right? If you have a big complex task which you attempt, you will make a mistake. I mean, we do that, so
Exactly.
it's not like, oh, I'm better than ChatGPT, you know.
Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. And like, this is one thing that I've like, in several conversations with people, I get a very similar feeling that a lot of what we do with AI, you can have analogies in real life, like how you would operate, how a human would operate. And like, most of it is just common sense. Most of it is like, if you have too many things you have to process at once, you get overwhelmed. It's a simple
exactly.
fact,
Yeah.
you can know through self-reflection. And the same
Yeah.
applies when you're like trying to work with prompts, right? So
Hmm.
it's getting so much closer to imitation of like a human thinking, that I think if you have like a little bit of self-awareness, you will be able to use that into your own prompting workflows, is what I've like
Yeah.
realized off late.
Right. I mean, yeah, so I do agree. And now, of course, we're talking about like, people using AI in their personal lives or in the workplace. But in the workplace, how easy or difficult have you found it to, I don't know, to get stakeholders to agree to try it and at any level, perhaps your colleagues or whoever else?
Yeah, this is a good, very relevant, valid question. I think there's a group, a huge chunk of people who believe AI is a hype. There's a huge chunk of people who have like extremely bought into the opportunity, and then there's people who are skeptical about it. And this is
Hmm.
going to be the nature in every organization everywhere. I'm
Yes.
pretty sure. And I think for us, it was just about, yeah, I think that's the thing, right? People, the ones who believe it's a hype are naturally averse to this term, right? So if you bring
Yes.
like, oh, we should use, let's do build an AI feature for that, AI feature for that, people are like, just please, just stop. Like, like, don't, why? Like, why do you want this AI feature? Like, what new problem are you solving, right? So I think that should be the wrong way to lead this conversation, and the right way to lead this conversation is like what benefit, or like what problem that you actually solve with AI. And most often the problem is time saved, which is not, I'm not talking about a feature, UI feature, but like if it's an internal AI tool or option, or an AI, if you're spending resources on building some AI stuff internally, well, that's a question of time. And then if you're able to justify, I spend 10 hours and now can be finished in an hour, there's a 10x improvement. Like people are more receptive. Okay, fine, AI or non-AI, everyone likes a 10x improvement in their workflow, right? So it becomes easy to lead your conversation through the outcome lens. And with regard to AI features, again, it's it's not the problems don't change. The problem is about like being able to find what you want, being able to whatever your objective is in your flow, you're getting those objectives faster, easier, better. These things remain the same, but the path that the user would take to get there are more options right now because of this AI. And if you're able to justify the value of this new improved path to the outcome, communicate that instead of saying, "Oh, I want this AI feature." So I think it's a problem of communication on like what value to the user that you're providing, and being very clear and being able to measure it can help work with stakeholders who are skeptical. But there is like, yeah, you can prove the value of it. You can create impact estimations, and these impact estimations are sizable. They're not like, oh, like borderline improvements. They are sizable, and this is all over the place. Like there are enough data out there to indicate that AI is not just a hype; it's revolutionary.
Yeah, that is true. I feel pretty certain that the ones right now who think it's hype, it's only a matter of time that they will either change their minds or have to change their minds, one of the two.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
I'm curious. I mean, like, okay, let's assume you have your way and there is everyone's just like super pro. We've adopted it into workflows and also, I mean, to speed up workflows themselves, but also how prototypes are built, how design is done. In this scenario, how do you envision, a product team or a product designer's role?
Yeah, I think the tooling workflow is going to be a big change. We are still in early phases of like Figma Make, and how like vibe coding fits into a designer's workflow.
Yeah.
I'm aware that this change is more significant in startups, smaller startups, where like I think companies will try to hire people with a bit of vibe coding knowledge in their companies, because now there are like you could people could start contributing directly to code bases, for example. That becomes an advantage. Instead of hiring two people,
Yeah.
now people like companies can get the job done with one. And why wouldn't companies want to optimize that for the cost, right? So the change is happening more in smaller startup scale, but the bigger organizations still need to embrace some structural changes in their way of working to be able to adapt to this. So that's where I think tools like Figma Make, when they mature, will fill that gap. And the thing with Figma Make right now is like, the big thing that everyone's trying to figure out, in my opinion, is like how to make it work with design systems. If you write a prompt, like on Lovable, you create a generic design. But if you write a prompt on your existing design to be able to make something usable with your design system, is a part that still there's a lot to go to bring it to that perfection, right? There are lots of tools out there who are trying to solve this in different ways, but it's not there yet. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to get to that, and it's going to get to that way faster than we think. Maybe a couple of months, maybe next week, I don't know. But when it comes to that, imagine a future where you just take a screenshot of your existing application, upload that screenshot, and then just be like, your product requirements document and just like generate wireframes. The Figma generates wireframes for you based on your screenshot, based on your design system, based on your color tokens. It generates 10 options for you or 20 options for you. And then you can just take all those options, put it in a presentation and just bring for stakeholder conversation. An ideal future that is very close to possibility, right? Then why would even a designer be required here, right? So yeah, I mean, exactly, right? So then, but they're not going to they're not going to go out of a job. I think they're going to have, they're going to fill in more, they're going to fill in other kinds of tasks in this workflow. Maybe they might be the ones to plug in your designs with UXR findings. Maybe they'll use some sort of AI workflow to help validate your designs better. Maybe they might like try to create more like aesthetic interactions through prompting, for example. I don't know. Like they will focus on other things which probably have been spent less time so far, will become a thing to focus on right now, right? And now this whole concept of taste has become a popular thing. Like aesthetics was always a part of a designer's thing to think about. Like, why is it so important right now? Like, why was it never a thing before? Like, why is suddenly taste becoming a thing? I think because there is a bit of a differentiator that the designs need in this crowded market space where like everyone creates the same types of design. There needs to be a differentiator in terms of aesthetic feel to it, and there's like lots of new concepts. Like you've always designed for everyone. Now how can you design for one? Like dynamic UI, dynamic. So there, it creates all these new ways of looking at design that designers can start to first educate themselves on, to like try to see how they can create it, right? So yes, I think it creates new opportunities, to answer your question.
Okay, nice. Actually, so that is a perfect segue to my next question for you. For the designers who are especially younger, junior, starting the workflows, realizing that they're the easiest to replace, what is the one piece of advice you would have for designers? Actually, maybe at any level.
I would say, just embrace this thing, right? Like give some time until the market figures out what is the role and responsibilities of a designer in this AI world. It's constantly evolving. People are thinking about it. Design leaders are thinking about it. Like we are trying to understand like how to change workflows. There's active research going on in my company, for example, like how can we as designers change workflows? So things take time, like takes maybe 6 months to a year. I don't know. Like it depends in each region. In Germany, I think is much slower than like maybe the US or India. So yeah, give some time for the market to figure out exactly, how the workflows for a designer will change. Meanwhile, try to see how you can use AI for every part of your job. The thing is like, with vibe coding taken as an example, right? As I said, what an experienced engineer for 3 years or 4 years would build today can be built by someone with less than a few weeks of experience, right? See that the gap in terms of how much time one would have needed to spend to create something has reduced. We are talking like 98% reduction in that time, right? So the same applies to design, but the question is like how, right? The same applies to like each parts of your design. If you have like different prompts to guide you through each part of a design process, and these prompts are something you just saved, right? Or maybe the different tools that you use, that you collected, that helps you design. You could do an experienced designer's creation in like a fraction of the time than they would. So if you start looking out for how can I become that effective using these tools, that gives you a better frame to start looking at how to acquire your skills today, and yeah, I think that gives you a massive advantage, because when the whole world is trying to figure out, especially the unemployed ones, like they have all the time to look out for these tools and just try to like see what can I create, not like how can I get a job, that should be a part of the thing too. But if you start focusing on what can I create, it naturally leads you to how can I get a better job when the market figures out what's that better job like. But the people who are already employed have way little time to sit and innovate on their workflow. So maybe it's a reframing on how you can see it as an advantage that of having time in your hand. If you can work without income for some time, for example, just specific advice to people who are unemployed that they can turn this into an advantage because they have the advantage of time and experimentation. And
Yeah.
there is when the market figures out, like they will have something that probably others don't.
Yeah. So I love it actually. One thing what I've taken away from this entire conversation is that you seem to approach every single thing actually with a question. How do I solve this? How can I create? So basically, yeah, I guess it's a mindset thing, right? You change your mindset to a certain thing, it stops being scary. It may be annoying
Yes.
at the start, but then it's fine, right? And
Exactly. Yeah,
so,
looking at things from a curiosity and opportunity point
mhm,
of view. I,
yeah.
I think this leads to a like I don't know, like you could either do that or you could do like you could be like ignorant of this or you could just be like
Mm,
dismissive of it. I don't know how being ignorant and dismissive will serve you because it's not gonna this
yeah.
is not gonna stop. Like people are gonna be building better models. People are gonna be relying more on AI. Developers are gonna start using AI for all their development stuff. Things
Yes.
are gonna get faster. The question is adapt or die. So
Exactly. I
just
mean,
might as well.
yeah. People said this at the
Exactly.
start of the internet. They said it when computers were a brand new thing. So we've been there before. But yeah, I
Exactly.
agree. I don't know. I really don't think someone can stay dismissive or skeptical for too long. The change is here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
it's why it amuses me when people post like, "Oh, AI is a bubble. It's gonna burst." Like, oh, that's it's not a
yeah.
bubble. It's the present. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Yeah.
it's the world we live in.
Uh, yeah, well, so this has been a super fun conversation, but before we leave, I would love to know what is your current favorite AI tool? Or you can tell me maybe if you have two different ones you use for different things. So I'd love to know.
My most favorite AI tool is N8N. N8N is amazing. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like it's a visual builder for your workflows and
Mm-hmm.
it just like it's like make.com or Zapier and it runs in the background
Mm-hmm.
and you can connect different AI workflows with it. So you could have N8N workflows that triggers when you receive an email. You have N8N workflows trigger when you receive a WhatsApp message, for example. So like quite literally like every part of your like day-to-day life you can if it's digital you N8N gives you a way to trigger an automation which presents like some crazy opportunities because I can trigger an N8N when I receive a Slack message. I can trigger an N8N when I receive a WhatsApp message. Like it creates all these opportunities. And the other thing is about how AI can communicate with different tools and like be able to work autonomously. Also, like I'm super excited about the automation space because it's like a lot of things. Like for example, I'm trying to get into this content creation. And it's like it's so many things to do, right? Like I mean, you're in podcasting, right? You
Yes.
got to record this, edit it, make sure your transcripts are like clearly edited. You need to, get the hook right. You have to like chop out like the
Yeah.
unnecessary flaws. It's so much work, right?
Yeah.
But like now the reason I'm able to do all of this while having a job is because of all these AI workflows that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it would be impossible for me to like do what I'm doing today. And yeah, so I've become so dependent on it that like otherwise life would be so like unreal. Like it won't be possible to get this much done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's definitely a big thing. So N8N is my tool.
Okay.
That's I
Yeah.
highly recommend N8N for anyone who is trying to not just automate but just learn about like workflows and AI,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
prompting. The other thing is like how to prompt better, like prompt engineering or context engineering. This is
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the new thing I'm thinking about because it's yeah. I think the question of how do you it's the same way as humans operate, right? Like if you had to teach someone to do a certain task, how much context do you have to give them to be able to do that task like properly is is a question which is just another way of like dressing up context engineering, right? It's just this is a way of thinking what how much exactly how little context or like what's the right amount of context to give someone is context engineering. And thinking about this gives a lot of like ways to think about how to create solutions, because you have to provide just a lean amount of context and be able to use prompts to create that context so you can give all that context to another prompt. So thinking about this is quite exciting to me because it's a new form of engineering that like never existed but gives you far better like far more interesting output than traditional software engineering would, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's very exciting. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Okay, well, this has been super fun. Thank you so much for your time. And I know that your workshop at Hatch is about automation, right?
Yes, it's
The
about
Yeah,
automation for
I know it's
design
going to be
teams.
full
Yeah.
right now. I guess it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we have 2 days of full day workshops, like back to back. So 10th and 11th of September. And everything like so excited. They're very curious. Yeah, I have some quite a bit of like interesting things to share because I'm doing it full time right now in my company. I've like moved entirely into working on AI stuff, so I'm excited.
I'm curious to know how it goes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.